Okay, it's time now for a look through today's newspapers, and for that I'm joined here in the studio by Alison Sargent. And Alison, we're starting with reactions to this weekend's bloodshed in Myanmar, with over 100 anti-coup protesters killed in one single day on Saturday.
That's right, Thomas. Saturday was the deadliest day since the start of this military coup. We read in the Financial Times that 114 people were killed, a toll that the paper writes is stoking outrage. They cite Amnesty International, which notably accused the military of trying to, quote, kill their way out of the crisis. The Financial Times also notes that of the over 400 people who have been killed since the start of this coup, 20 have been children. Now, this latest round of bloodshed took place on Myanmar's Armed Forces Day, and French paper Libération is focusing on the fact that that very same night, the military threw themselves a party. Libération's headline here reads, "Feast for the generals, funerals for the opponents." The paper reports that at least one of those funerals that was held the next day on Sunday was disrupted by soldiers who opened fire on the mourners.
And Alison, this bloody crackdown has horrified some members of the military who've managed to abandon their posts and in fact go into hiding.
That's right, and the New York Times has actually spoken to two former members of Myanmar's military who defected in the wake of the coup. The man pictured in this article here says he snuck off his base in early March after he learned that fellow soldiers had used live bullets to fire at protesters. He told the paper, "I love the military so much, but the message I want to give my fellow soldiers if you are choosing between the country and the military, well, please choose the country." Now, another officer described Myanmar's army as modern slavery. They say officers and their family members live in military compounds with every move monitored. And the New York Times writes that that cloistered world actually may help explain how the military really underestimated the intensity of the opposition they were going to face when they carried out this coup. Basically, they were in a bubble of their own support.
Okay, we're going to move on now to France, where pressure is mounting for the Macron government to shut schools amidst rising coronavirus cases.
Yeah, the government has already increased its precautionary measures starting today, this Monday. Any class that has one single case of coronavirus is going to be closed. Now, 20 Minutes is reporting on one high school in Drancy, which is outside of Paris, where 22 classes will be closed starting this Monday, which is over 1/5 of the school. This school is in mainland France's poorest department, Saint-Saint-Denis. And as we read also in this headline, 20 parents of students at that school have already died of COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. You can see how hard this pandemic has been for this area in particular. 20 Minutes writes that the government has wanted to keep schools open as much as possible, but the paper asks, well, is that still reasonable?
And a lot of papers are asking that very same question, and for many the answer is in fact no.
Yeah, France's communist paper L'Humanité writes today that France's education minister Jean-Michel Blanquer has lost control of the situation in schools. The paper writes that teachers are considering going on strike in regions like Saint-Saint-Denis with a high number of coronavirus cases. And then at the other end of the political spectrum, business paper L'Opinion also headlines that COVID-19 and schools have become an impossible equation. In this cartoon here on the paper's front page, we see the teacher is asking the class to welcome a spiky new student who they say is joining them from England.
Let's move on now to the US, where a star of the US women's soccer team has penned an op-ed in support of trans youth, Alison.
Yes, Thomas, this op-ed was published by Megan Rapinoe, one of my favorite players, in the Washington Post. It comes as more than 25 US states have introduced legislation to ban transgender kids from playing on sports teams. These laws would require schools to designate a child's team based on the gender they were assigned at birth. Now, Megan Rapinoe writes, proponents of these bills argue that they are protecting women, but, quote, as a woman who has played sports my whole life, I know that the real threats to women's sports are lack of funding, resources and media coverage, sexual harassment, and unequal pay. And you see in the headline, she's saying that these laws are trying to solve a problem that really doesn't exist.
And finally, from you, Alison, we're hearing that the ship that's been blocked in the Suez Canal for almost a week now might finally be on the move. But papers are warning of one of the potential consequences of this blockage, which affects our our bathrooms.
That's right, Thomas. You might want to start stockpiling a little bit of toilet paper because a shortage could be on the way. As we read in the Figaro, the world's largest supplier of toilet paper pulp, so the stuff that's used to make toilet paper, has warned of a delay in shipments. It actually has to do, when you read this article carefully, it has to do with a shortage in shipping containers. So the toilet paper shortage was potentially already on the horizon, but according to the paper, the situation has gotten even worse now with the blockage of the Suez Canal. I don't encourage panic buying, but I'd say keep an eye on the toilet paper supply. Maybe get an extra roll or two the next time you're in the store.
Okay, Alison Sargent with the press review. Thank you very much.